So I'm probably a new face for some of you, not all of you. You probably were expecting when you saw SAIM to see Mirage, but it's not going to be Mirage today. It's going to be me. And I'm probably going to review a lot of stuff that many of you have seen before, but you're going to hear it from a different perspective because probably how I present, no, not probably, I'm sure how I present will be different than maybe how Mirage has presented in the past. Not good, not bad, just give you a little flavor, a little different. So first let me tell you a little bit about who I am. My name is Lux Boim. I'm president of SAIM. My background is not engineering and it's not fuels, and until a year and a half ago I knew nothing. I didn't even know this existed. My background is technology, right? So I started actually in sports. That's my passion. I graduated from the University of Kansas, and then I got into the nonprofit world, but in a sports role. So I love it. That's where you're going to find me. Most nights, most weekends, I'm going to be watching a game. Probably more than my husband and my son, if you believe what they say. But as life goes on, I learned you can find new passions. And I had an opportunity after my son was born to get into the technology space. Not trained in that either. My degree, in full disclosure, is just a communications degree out of the University of Kansas. I spent 5 years getting that and had a whole bunch of fun. Right? But I landed in technology, and from that I learned you can find new passions. It's a real opportunity to innovate. I'm a builder. So if you were to look at a personality profile, you would see I build things and I innovate. Those are my two strongest suits. So I embrace that immediately, whether it's innovation for software, whether it's innovation in building teams, whether it's innovation in how to get a user to use it. That's my comfort space. That's where I like to do things, right? And then I give it to other people and I ask them to execute. It's a wonderful role. So that's kind of who I am from that space. I've spent 20 years in tech. I spent 5 years in a large partner that built infrastructures, primarily sold IBM, and then got into a whole bunch of other things. Built a small business within that. Those shareholders spun me out. I built a software company, software as a service, serviced the tech space. It was a little bit like SAIM, which of course we'll go through what SAIM does, but for infrastructure. So it managed high-end assets for clients like HBO, you know, kind of your household names, US Bank. And then I sold that company, and I thought I was just gonna coach and mentor people, and I met Kent, and he had SAIM and did a little bit of consulting, and then I took this position. So very excited to be here. I'm looking because I do see Felicia changed my slide here a little bit. Fun fact, I am a big boxing fan because I'm a big sports fan. So I am a USA certified boxing judge. I've worked the Olympic trials. I've worked the Olympics, not as a judge. Don't have as much time, and frankly, it's not as much of a hotbed here in Kansas as it was down in Florida. But I enjoy that. And my favorite quote is, sight shows us what is, vision shows us what can be, SAIM does both. Sight shows us what's happening today so we can set the vision for what tomorrow's gonna look like, right? So we're gonna talk a little bit about why technology, why SAIM, customer adoption, because all your investment in SAIM, it's really kind of not worth anything if we can't get your clients, your people on the ground to adopt the system, right? So how do we do that? And what's new and what's next? So I'll apologize to some of you who are at SAIM Connect because you're going to hear a little bit, not the whole thing, but a little bit of what you've already heard. But I think it's important, and even more so post SAIM Connect, as I started interacting with my CSMs a little bit more with their clients and kind of the verbiage I hear on the ground, right, when we put SAIM in. So let's talk about tech first. Tech leads change, innovation leads change. Change is hard, but change is critical to make our businesses better, right? So SAIM wants to lead that change, regardless of how difficult or how easy that may appear to be. So we're going to talk tech. So, tech. I want to take a little step back. We're going to go back to the 40s. 1940s, the transistor was the biggest piece of tech there was, right? It was huge at that time, by the way. It wasn't even the size of a transistor radio, which is probably what my generation would remember, transistor radios. But transistors make up microchips. Microchips make up every single piece of computing that you have, right? Whether it's in your refrigerator, whether it's in your phone, right? Whether it's in your laptop, it's everywhere. There's not much today, except maybe those coffee pots that aren't digital, that don't run with some type of a microchip or transistor, right? Thousands of transistors fit on a microchip. There's a law called Moore's Law that says every 2 years we double the number of transistors that we put on a microchip. And a microchip, I'm looking for something small enough, might be smaller, half the size of the little circle on the front of this guy, right? And it's, again, fits in your phone. This is basically a computer now, right? We would be dead without them. So they really run our lives, right? So that takes us to why tech and why I'm even talking about this. And what I hear a lot from my customer success managers that they hear from the operators is, why do I need this? This is so hard. Not comfortable. I don't want to learn it. I'm not sure what the value it's bringing. But yeah, we're not probably doing a good enough job educating them that this isn't your life every day. When you go home tonight, if you have a security system on your home, this is being run, right, by a microchip, by a transistor. You are living on your phone. When I first came to SAIM, actually, what I heard is the operators, they don't even have phones. I was like, I don't believe it. I still don't believe it. I believe when they get in their car, they have a phone, just like the rest of us. It's how you travel. It's how you get on a plane. It's how you order your Uber. It's how you consume your news. If they don't have a phone, I guarantee you they have a streaming service at home. Right, because that's how we consume everything. We don't do bunny ears anymore. We don't even do cable that had big boxes. We consume it through the media, through streaming, right? So if we could get them to understand it's here, it's alive, you embrace it every day, and you don't even think about it as technology, then maybe we can get them to start to understand how it's going to improve their lives, right? And we're going to talk about that as we go through the modules of SAIM, how it will improve their lives. By the way, I am terrible with PowerPoint presentations. I just talk. So you can interrupt, and if I lose track of the slides or it looks really crazy, raise your hand, let me know. So what is SAIM? So we can talk about this definition that I know I've seen 8 times. So SAIM is a fueling facility information, data, drawings, documents. It's available 24/7. It's on a centralized hub. It's modular. It eliminates guesswork. It provides transparency. What does that mean? Who cares? How does it help me? Right? If I'm an operator, how does it help me? If I'm a stakeholder, how does it help me? If I'm an engineer, how does it help me? Well, again, another slide that I've seen, I don't know, 10, 12 times. It's Chris's slide, I'm sure. But let's talk about, first of all, the challenges it solves. So we know operating budgets are tightening. Doesn't matter what business you're in. That's kind of an age-old problem. We know the facilities are aging. In a lot of cases, I don't know if I like this word for people, but we hear the staff is aging, right? So that's a challenge because we need to impart our knowledge. And in most companies, sophisticated and unsophisticated, a lot of that knowledge lives in somebody's head. It's not written down. It's somebody who's done a job 20 years. We know that facility information is often dated, unavailable, or incorrect. And it's on a lot of paper, in a lot of file drawers or shelves, right? We're going to talk about that. And thank you, John, for your presentation, because I found about 3 ways that people who are using SAIM today are already reducing their carbon footprint, right? And probably don't even know it. And then limited visibility into facility performance. So we kind of don't really know what's happening at every facility. We're relying on our vendors, our lead operators, maybe a GM, but we're not really sure how that stacks up. I won't say it's suspect data, but it's subjective a lot of times, right? So those are the challenges that everybody's facing today. I'm going to go past these. I liked them, but I don't think they're applicable. So we get information to answer those challenges when we get data. When you're investing in SAIM, you're investing in the data. Data is king. Data drives everything today. I know you could tell us that from Meta. That's why you have data centers all over the world, and it's collecting data. And that's how we push advertisements to you. And that's why Dan is getting his Google alerts, because the data behind the scenes, right? It tells us everything. So it's no different with SAIM and your organization. You're investing in the data. That's giving you power, right? Knowledge is always power. Who uses that power? Your operator uses it. They're going to use it to plan their day. They're going to use it to be proactive. As we go through the modules, I'm going to talk about proactive versus reactive, right? So SAIM allows us to have a proactive world. When we live in a proactive world, we manage our destiny. We have less burnout. We have less turnover. We live in a reactive world. We have chaos. And it can be very exciting when we solve a problem one day. We kind of get that hero. But when you live in chaos, you have higher burnout, higher turnover, lower customer sat, right? So the data gives us power, so we can be proactive. Gives us to it at the operator level. Gives us to it at the engineer level. They can see real time what's happening in a facility. They don't have to get on a plane, go out there, figure it out. Gives it to us at the stakeholder level, right? So owners can see across their facilities, how are they performing? Where is it working? Where is it not? Where do I have to look at a capital project here, right? They can see that without going out to a facility, without looking at maybe 100 spreadsheets and their financials. They can just kind of take a look in the dashboards, which we'll talk about in a minute, and begin to see how that facility is performing. So what's it worth to have it? Well, we can define the expectations for your operators, right? It's good, and we'll talk about that when we talk about maintenance module. Clear communication from the on-site team to somebody who's maybe not on-site, whether that's an owner, whether that's an engineer, whomever that may be. Confirmation that scheduled maintenance is occurring. It's not, yeah, I did it. We know it, we track it, we see it. Accurate accounting of manpower, right? And this is, this is touchy, right? Because the operators, they don't know technology, but they're not dumb. They know that this might be their big brother, or that's how they feel. And that's why it's really important to position this differently, because I don't know that that's the intent. I think the intent is to bring in efficiency. If you're understaffed, to see that maybe you're understaffed, right? But we want to change. We want to change their mindset. This is good for you. So it gives us manpower. It allows us to have security of documents. Today, documents on paper aren't very secure. They can walk out with somebody and never come back. Then you have no trail. You may have something that you don't really want out of your facility in somebody else's hands, right? So we get security of documents and we get access. A good knowledge transfer to the next generation. The ability to predict and manage our budgets, because now we're tracking work orders. We know how much time it takes to do something. We know how much that's going to cost. We can begin to plan budgets. We also know if a pump is running 90% of the time and two others are running 10%, and now we have an issue, and what's happening with that pump, and do we need a replacement, and why is the second one not running, right? So it gives us all those insights. What's happening in our facility? And what's the cost of not knowing? And actually, I'm not even going to really go through this slide, because intuitively, the cost of not knowing is burnout, flat out cost, unplanned expenses, capital projects that you didn't plan for, replacements that you didn't plan for, right? And then potentially less industry knowledge, because as the newer generations come in, how are you training them? Are you expecting them to go through those volumes of paper that are sitting on those shelves? Because that's not how they consume information. As your workforce begins to leave and you've got 30-year-old operators, those that are coming in, your mechanics, your operators, guess where they want their information? They want it on technology. They've never consumed it any other way. Their textbooks are on their phones and their iPads. This is how they get their news. This is how they do their entertainment. In fact, which may not be to the benefit of our society, this is how they communicate with their friends, their girlfriends, their wives. This is it, right? So they don't want to go through a ream of paper. They want that piece of technology, right? So how do you assess the performance of your facilities as a cost of not knowing? Right, we can't really improve, we can't educate, we can't make one facility better if we can't see how it's performing against another. Do you have the right assets in place? Are you staffed and trained? So a lot of this is kind of repetition said in a different way. My husband, who's a marketing person, Felicia, you will relate that repetition, it pierces the dullest of minds. That's what he tells me all the time. It's okay, give the presentation 10 times, Tina. Repetition will pierce the dullest of minds. They'll get it. So you hear the same themes as we go through this. Okay, so these were just interesting slides that, in all candor, as I was putting this together, I went through a whole bunch of slide presentations. I'm not big on reinventing the wheel. I'm big on maybe presenting a message differently, but I like these. I'm guessing these are probably a Chris slide from a presentation before, but I thought they were interesting, and they were science-backed. They were data-backed, right? The power of data. So what's the cost of digital defiance? $47 million in annual productivity loss. 81% of employees feeling frustration. When it's not digital and you're searching for it, or you're looking for somebody to train you and they're not there that day, and somebody's relying on you to do something, you're gonna get real frustrated real quick. That's living in chaos. That's reactive. When you come in during that day and you don't really know what your job is, that's living in chaos, right? That takes down your morale, and it leads to employee frustration. So I thought that was a real good metric. 42% of institutional knowledge is leaving with each employee. And that goes back to the aging workforce. And what's in their head, they know how to sump a pump in 5 minutes. I'm making that up. I have no idea how long it takes to sump a pump, but they know how to do it in 5, and the new guy doesn't have a clue how to do it. What he wants to do is get on his phone and look at a video. He wants to see the task. He wants to click into the task. He wants to see a video. He wants to do the steps, right? So if we don't digitize, there's a cost there, because that 5-minute process, it's leaving with the operator who's leaving. What's the ROI on a digital solution? Right, that's what SAIM is, a digital solution. 15% reduction in project labor hours when making decisions using the centralized cloud data. So the simplest terms is I come in, I see all the tasks I have to do. They're on a handheld. The handheld has a map that literally walks me through the facility, so I don't go to point A and then to point Z and then back to point B. I can go through my tasks in a diligent way. I can control my day, and I can increase my productivity. Right? So that's a project, but this is in terms of how it lives today in your tool, right? So these people aren't really working projects most cases. They're working a daily set of tasks. And they need to plan the project, right? So as-built is that first component. As-built's gain a little bit of an overhaul. You're gonna hear that when we get to the end of this, but we are gonna start to associate each asset, the information on the asset within the asset. So you don't just see that, you can see the information inside the apps. You can drill in, and so then you really begin to see your whole facility. We have maintenance. So tank farm manager, we call it. It includes 2 things. So it includes the daily tasks that your operators are going in, that they're gonna do, that they're gonna take control of their day. They're gonna be proactive, not reactive, right? It's their daily tasks. And it includes document management. So here's an example of ESG. Again, all that paper sitting in files, sitting on shelves. We're scanning it, right? We're getting it digitized. If we could get rid of that paper, we'd certainly cut less timber down, right? We don't have to worry about a recycling program, at least not for paper probably in our facilities. It's all digitized now. A little bit the same with your man hours too, right? If you can go in and control your day, you aren't gonna burn out. You're gonna finish your day on time. You may actually find you have a small sliver of man hours that can be used for a facility to do some type of social interaction, some type of community project, right? So again, there's very small ways today, 1% increase. That SAIM is already tackling ESG. Now there's much bigger ways that we can measure a whole lot of things, right, through monitoring that will have a much more dramatic impact when you're talking to the powers that be. But I want you to understand that already today, it's starting to do that job for you. SAIM Inspect is part of Tank Farm Manager. You've all heard about it, I know, so we'll just kind of breeze through this. It is the intrinsically safe. Again, I've learned a lot from Mirage. Intrinsically safe, handheld, that goes out on location. It gives a map. It allows the operators to know where they're going within the location. It has their tasks. They can bookmark their tasks. They scan it. They do it. We track how much time. We know the task got done. Right now, there's always loopholes to everything, but we're working on reducing the loopholes so that they are scanning, we are tracking, and we know the task got done. And then monitoring. So monitoring has been with SAIM since before I came on, and I've actually been doing some bit of work with SAIM for 2 years. I can't believe 2 years. But it has only been in 4 locations up until this quarter. So, we've had some hiccups with some security. We're past that now. It's going out to the rest of 13 more locations before the end of the year. So I tell you that because while it's very applicable and useful today in the facilities without having multiples, when we begin to have multiples is when we get predictive analytics. It's when we can apply machine learning. It's when we can see artificial intelligence and begin to really help owners manage their facilities, right? It may be one of the scariest things for some of the operators, because, and I heard you say, I don't know if it was John, or I guess it was John, talk about Red Hill, and that the operators, you know, kind of disregarded the signals. We see that now in SAIM in only 4 locations, right? So we don't want them to do that. We want to know when that's happening. We want to track it. Maybe it's legitimate, but this will track it. This is IoT. This is the Internet of Things. This is anytime you hear the word smart, this is what it is, right? Anything we can put a sensor on that we can bring specific to the monitoring data. It is on an isolated line. It is not touching the network anywhere. It's coming from the PLC through a router on an isolated line coming right into SAIM. Right? And to that router, all we're doing is we're converting, which is nonsensical data, into something that we can use and display for you. So it's never going to hit the network. So, and then at that, it's a read-only out. So you can't come back through the router and come in. I don't know what you would do with the data if you got in there, but you can't get back into it. It can only come out, and it's isolated. So if there's a bad player and they were to get into that line, it would have no bearing on the airline's networks or the facilities networks. Answer that further, John. You're right, it's ever evolving. So SAIM has committed to, we finished it last year, it'll have to happen again next year, right? We have an independent firm come in, do a security audit. So it's not just this piece, it's your documents that are digitized, right? If somebody comes in, if they're able to breach that and come backwards into the system, what does that mean? How do we keep them out? Our goal has been to be NIST 800 compliant, which is a level of NIST 151, which is what the Defense Department recommends, and actually doesn't recommend, but requires for their systems, right? So we're within that, that's what we're audited against, and then we also do a penetration test. So it's both sides that need cybersecurity. There's a document that I've worked on that Felicia's cleaned up. It'll be linked out to the website so that when these questions come up from others, you can quickly drive them there, grab it, and we can put it on a slick. Felicia's showing you. So that's IoT. This is where I think there's a lot of opportunity to get a little bit more involved with ESG, right? And to measure some things that maybe aren't the standards that we're measuring today, right? But the biggest piece of this is getting it up and going across your facilities so we can begin the predictive analytics and the artificial intelligence and the metrics. One thing to note, and this maybe is more for Dan than anybody because he loves data, at least that's what I hear at Argus, but this data is refreshing continually, right? It's real-time data. It's not overnight. So that data is getting stored, all those data points, right? It's a huge amount of data when we put all these facilities up. We have to take it out. We have to put it someplace else. We have to, a little bit like John was talking about with pictures, then how do we quickly access it to build you a story because it becomes massive, right? But it does paint a picture because it does refresh so often, right? And there's so many data points that can drive a really clear picture then of a facility. So, solutions we're supporting now. I'm gonna go past this because I know Felicia's gonna tell me I probably have 10 minutes, and I think it's real important that you hear where SAIM's going, okay? So, first of all, quick little map. If it's gold, yellow, whatever that color is to your eyes, I don't know, anybody's colorblind, those are contracted facilities, all to be implemented, deployed by the end of 2022. Most of them are already deployed minus monitoring. Frankly, we only have a couple left that aren't deployed at anything minus monitoring. Then we have proposed for 2023, there's 17 locations proposed. They're kind of the green teal. And we have some that were funded that I don't know that funding, well, I know Houston and El Paso are definitely funded for next year. I'm not as sure on LaGuardia in Portland right now. Not really sure, but that's what I have from my powers that be, Chris. So user adoption, top priority 2022 was user adoption. If we can't get your teams on the ground to really understand it, want it, you know, get excited about it, we're gonna have a problem. So we do that through deployments and on-site training. Our teams go out, they train, they're usually there for 3 to 5 days and deploying the tank farm manager, you know, making relationships. Those should be ongoing relationships. We ask them to do ongoing calls with your teams, ongoing trainings. We did our first annual SAIM Connect conference, which was great. We'll talk about that in a second. We have a support portal, which is new as of early this year, comes off the website. There's knowledge-based articles, there's training videos, and there's an ability to put support tickets in that your customer success managers see, and or if necessary, our development team. We have a feedback process. We're not going to review that today, but there is a feedback process for you to give feedback for features. I will tell you that a lot of the features from SAIM Connect are coming in January of 2023. And then we have ongoing training and certifications, right? So we want to get your operators excited. We want to get them certified. We want that to mean something to you, whether that's in the form of some kind of price differential and or contest. It's really important for user adoption that they get involved, right? So that's part of that. So we did have SAIM Connect. Our first one, 67 attendees, 20 airports represented, primarily operators, a lot of SAIM people. And then we had owners and we had engineers. So who cares? So we did ask them what they wanted to learn, and we put that in buckets. Don't have time to review it here. But basically the gist is, what does SAIM do? How do I use it, and why? I could sum it up that way. What is it? How? Why? So the big metric here, guys, is when our attendees came in, their comfort level with SAIM was 6.65. When they left 2 days later, their comfort level was 8. That's critical. That was our first conference. If we can get better, and we can train better, and we can be better speakers with better content, that's just going to soar, right? And if we can double our attendees, now we're starting to get some user adoption. So what's next? So over the last few months, we took a really hard look at the back end of SAIM. It wasn't efficient. In fact, our carbon footprint, we were using servers all over the place. We're testing all kinds of new code and processes, and we're running the application in 5 what we called logic apps, 5 little apps behind the scenes. And what we heard at SAIM, and we heard a lot, is I want more features. I want them faster. I want a better site, and you're not developing fast enough. So we made a commitment. We started in June. We're upgrading the application, but really we're rebuilding that application in the back. So you have your application today, it's still running. It'll look very similar, but you'll get a brand new application in 2023, early 2023, January of 2023. As we sit today, we did requirements, we did analysis, we designed. We are now in code. We will go into deployment in probably December. We'll go into QA, or quality assurance, and user acceptance testing in November. And we are on track as of yesterday, I checked before I came here. So that's very exciting. You'll see your site go faster. You'll see features come quicker. And overall, you're going to get a whole bunch of features that your teams asked for when they were at SAIM Connect. So we've done a lot of features since April, since we left Las Vegas. We have new roles and permissions. The facilities now have control over the roles and permissions. Not everybody, only those who are given access. The roles are created, but they can then put their own users in and out. They're not having to submit a ticket. They're not waiting on us. We have an asset importer, so lots of assets. They have lots of tasks associated to them. So we've built an importer so that can get in, and somebody's not sitting behind the scenes manually doing that. And new reports, and that's probably the biggest thing, right? There's new reports, 2 new dashboards. They're very interactive. They give you a lot of data, a lot of detail. You can filter, you can kind of customize the reports, you can export them. So that's been the biggest improvement from a user perspective. Oops. I'm gonna go fast, I promise. Oh, okay. We've also done some usability updates on the SAIM Expect app, right? So the operators tell us we want some new dashboard charts. We want to download all of our open work orders along with the tasks, so when they go to do their day, not just their tasks, but can they also see the work orders that may be open that they should be looking at? And then can they bookmark that last task so they don't lose their place? I don't know, they have to go into the restroom. Who knows? It's time for lunch. Can I bookmark my task so I know where I left and continue to go on with my day? What's coming? Additional reports, scheduled reports. You will be able to schedule a report and then have it emailed to you, whether you want it daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, depends on your role, what you're trying to accomplish. There'll be a report for late maintenance tasks. There'll be a report for SME review required tasks. So this is where the engineers become really important. What are the tasks I should be reviewing? I can go in, I can see it. I don't have to kind of sort through everything. You can follow a task and see where it's at. So if you're an engineer and you're working with somebody at the facility, you can follow the task, see where they're going with that. Same with the work order. And then upcoming maintenance. So we've heard a lot about we don't want to see just one day. We want to see beyond that. We want to plan. We want to do workload planning. So we'll be giving that ability as well. ATA Forms Light, we're calling it. So not the roll-up forms, but the ATA forms for the tasks that are specific to a task, they'll be online come January. The roll-up forms, where you take those forms and they kind of come into a report, those will come version 2, probably spring. Usability improvements. So it's a very static interface today. So you'll be able to move columns. You'll be able to filter. You'll be able to do meaningful emails with attachments right from the screen as you're working on something. We talked about the task engine. And then, of course, we talked a little bit about what is the digital twin. And that's getting more details on each facility asset as you click over it, right? Whether that's in the static screen or in the as-built. So now we're starting to bring together that digital twin. Okay, so I talked really fast. It's a lot of information. And I don't know how long I have, 2 minutes maybe, but questions? Okay, then I'm going to say I did a great job and told you everything you needed to know.